Okay.
Joe, welcome to the podcast in the back of a shred truck. Have you ever heard of that before?
I have not. Thank you, though.
No, it's good to have you on. So if somebody doesn't know who you are, and a lot of people do, but if they don't know who you are, who are you, what do you do, who do you work with?
I work for BMO Transportation Finance, part of the Shred division. I manage the United States for them, based out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And for the most part, I deal with all the Shred companies, customers and prospects throughout the United States, and all the dealers that are involved in the Shred industry, with all products direct and indirect, meaning anything that's titled asset and anything that's a non-titled asset. We look at ourselves as truly a corporate sponsor and a corporate partner, meaning that we look at where a company is, where a company was, and where a company's going, and how can we help them get there.
And so predominantly because you said a lot of things there, but predominantly you help, in terms that somebody who's never been in this industry would understand, you help them lease trucks.
Yes.
And equipment.
Yes. What our main goal is as an asset-based lender is to provide secured rate financing on a fixed basis on terms anywhere from 36 to 84 months, which allows them to acquire those assets, which we deem as income-producing assets, to help their business grow.
Got it. And you've been doing this for a long time. I mean, you've been around this game for a long time.
Started in 1985.
Yeah.
When I was 25 years old. So this is my 39th year in the industry.
My gosh. And were you always in shredding, or were you in a different...
No, I actually started with a company called the CIT Group, and I worked there until the year 2000, so from 85 to 2000. I left to go to a company called FCC Equipment Financing, had a cup of coffee there, ended up at U.S. Bank, and then over at Wells Fargo, where I spent 16 years, and now at BMO since August of 23.
Okay, and so BMO is originally a Canadian company.
Well, Bank of Montreal.
Yeah.
Yes. But our BMO's legacy in our transportation finance group dates back 50 years to the old associates. So through acquisition, we were the associates to City Capital to GE to Bank of Montreal, BMO.
Okay, got it. Okay. So, couple of questions I have for you, because you do a lot of work with a lot of people in this industry.
Yes.
And so what are the challenges that you're currently seeing that your clients are facing from a financing perspective? What are some of the things that keep recurring to you or showing up?
Well, part of the industry that we see is the attrition or the acquisitions thereof, the smaller entities. So a lot of our companies where our customers are being acquired by larger companies, and that's just part of the nature of business. But our role is really to help those companies grow, because quite frankly, if they can grow and become acquired and they get that proverbial offer they can't refuse, good for them.
Yeah.
Maybe bad for us, but good for them.
Yeah. No, and I experienced that in my role too, as I help companies grow and help them get to a next stage. And when they get acquired, they go, well, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm retiring now. So.
Well, as a partner, and that's what we really look at, because we have a vested interest in seeing a company succeed.
Yeah.
And the more they succeed, the more they grow, the more revenue that they can generate, the more profits they can bring to the bottom line, the chances are more equipment they're going to need. They're going to land more contracts.
Right.
And hopefully it means more opportunities for financing or leasing of the equipment for them.
Yeah. So in today's economy, right, because the last few years, interest rates are high. Mm-hmm. There's like how do you particularly help a client think about, a shred truck like we're sitting in is a significant investment.
Yes.
It's not a box truck. It's a big number investment to build the business or add capability to your fleet. How do you help them think through the interest rate challenges that are present today, and who knows where the economy is going right now? It's seemingly a little bit of a crazy place.
It's really understanding their business model.
Okay.
It's understanding their cash flows, understanding if their business is cyclical or not, and helping them get into a monthly payment that's affordable and that they can make.
Right.
And also understanding, too, the duration of the term that they're looking for. Does it fit them? Now, there's a lot of things that we can do to help them. And, we have a number of different products, from a loan to a track lease. But then again, it opens up a number of questions about depreciation. Do they need that to offset income? Are they better for a loan? And we don't offer advice we calculate structures so they can have that conversation with their accountant.
Right.
And they can get their advice from their accountant, because we never want to be in a position where we're telling them what they should do. We'll put together what they're looking for so they can get that advice from their accountant. But once they have that, then they can come to us and we can say, does this structure work for you? What do you need?
Right.
I mean, we look to do 100% financing, because part of the rule is cash is always king. And in a market where there's some uncertainty, you want to have some cash on hand for the just in case.
Right.
And by able to do, if let's just say this vehicle is, say, $250,000,
Yep.
And you look at a term of 84 months, which is a little bit longer than the traditional term of 60 months, but it gives you a little bit lower of a monthly payment. It's about $3,770 a month. Does that fit to your budget?
Right.
If it doesn't, help me understand what you do need, and let's see if we can tailor make something that does fit your needs.
Got it.
And that's where you're having that meaningful conversation with the customer, because the more information you can give me, the better I can help you.
Right. So there's what you can do for them. What are you hearing from customers now, or people who are coming to you? With the changes in the economy, and with I see this industry is, there's elements of it with what you talked about, the acquisitions, but there's also new entrants. I don't think there's as many new entrants as there's been historically, but there's still new entrants coming in. And then these smaller regional companies, localized companies, seem to be doing quite well when the acquisitions happen to sort of build their fleets, But what are some of the challenges that you're hearing from customers as it relates to the financing of their assets?
Well, I think first and foremost is the cash outlay.
Right.
How much cash do I have to put down?
Up front.
Right.
Yep.
And I want to say, I can only speak for BMO. I can't speak for other lenders, but we're one of the lenders that does look to do 100% financing right out of the gate.
Right.
And I think when you look at, if you're putting 10% down on a $250,000 truck, that's a $25,000 down payment. Now, if you take that to 20%, now that's $50,000. That's a substantial amount of money. So now if you can do the financing on that asset and they can keep the $50,000 in their pocket, that's one of the biggest concerns that they've got. Do I have to put 10? Do I have to put 20, 25% down? And when you tell them, no, we can look at getting you approved at 100% financing out of the gate, then the next really question becomes, well, what's my monthly payment? And obviously there's a concern about where are interest rates today.
Yeah.
And there is some volatility in the marketplace, and we've seen some peaks and valleys.
Yep.
But we have seen rates trending downward.
Right.
Now, will that continue? I guess that remains to be seen, because there's a lot of uncertainty in the economy. You hear the news about tariffs. It does play a role. You see how the markets responded to that. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens, because there's a great quote from the movie Draft Day where he says, Kevin Costner's character says, we live in a different world today than we did 30 seconds ago. Well, we live in a different world today than we did a week ago, let alone a month ago.
Yeah.
And we'll live in a different world in a month from now.
Yep.
It'll be very interesting to see how that affects our customers and their business model. One of the beauties of what we do, especially in this industry, is they have contracts. A lot of these people have repeat customers and guaranteed contracts, so there's a source of revenue that's coming in that they can use to justify the acquisition. Now, through growth, and they're acquiring a new contract, they're doing the measurement, how much am I going to shred? What is that revenue going to generate? And can I afford a new truck for that? And those are the things that we want to know, because the more you tell me about your business, the better I can help you with that.
Right. Yeah. So, as a partner, let's say somebody's 3 years into a 60-month term. What are you coming back and doing other than getting the payment on that asset on a, is there ways you're coming in and saying, consider this, or is there stuff that happens a lot? I've never asked this question before.
No,
so
I mean,
once it's set, that's really the challenge.
I don't want to use the term. Remember the old Ronco set it and forget it oven?
Yeah.
It's not really that, but once the contract is in place, the contract's in place. But you also want to find out, how are things going?
Right.
Any issues? Because, a lot of times if you're talking to a customer during the middle of a contract, it may be about something that may not be good. I don't want to use the term bad, but is there a problem with a payment? And being, I guess, proactive,
Right.
and asking how are things going, just stay in contact with your customer, because you want to know what's going on with the business. Are you looking for another truck down the road? Oh, things aren't going as good as you anticipated. Why? What can we do? Is there a modification that might be required? So I think anytime you're having communication with your customer, you're always going to know on the forehand what's going on, because you don't want to find out about something bad that happened after the fact. So and keep in mind, at BMO, our application-only program is up to $1 million. So now if you think about that, in the world of shred trucks, you can conceivably get 4 shred trucks for $1 million.
Right.
Thereabout. But that's a lot of money on a one-page credit application. Now, you still have to qualify for it.
Right.
But it's a big risk on our part, because we're financing a depreciating asset.
Right.
So, but we understand the industry.
Yeah.
We understand the collateral. So we understand how a company takes paper, shreds it, and turns it into cash, which gives us the comfort level that we can finance this asset, because it's honestly no different than buying an automobile. When you drive it off the dealer's lot, there's a percentage that it depreciates.
Right.
We're comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Because if you look at the manufacturers in this industry, they're all great. They're great people. They produce a great product. We understand it. We love it. We understand what our customers do and how they make money. There's in the world of shred, there's not a lot of what I would call idiosyncrasies that change from company to company, unlike, say, in construction or over-the-road transportation or manufacturing.
Right.
So it's easy to get to understand the industry, which is why we're here, because we want to see our customers, we want to see what's going on in the industry, and we want to be a participant in the industry.
Yeah. So as a company that does financing, undoubtedly you guys are looking into the future, right? And where's this going? How's this going? What are some of the long range thinking, if you're able to disclose? What are you seeing on the horizon, say 3-5 years out?
Well, that's a really very interesting question, because if you think about where we were 5 years ago, in dealing with COVID, collateral values changed dramatically over that period of time.
Right.
There was a shortage of equipment. There was a time when you could order a new truck and you might not see it for 9 months.
Right.
So values of used equipment skyrocketed. So we want to have our finger on the pulse, not only of the economy, but of the industry. And by talking to manufacturers, because if you think about it, tariffs could have a huge play on parts that go into these trucks. Will they be real, or was this a point of negotiation with certain countries that maybe, as we say, the world we live in 30 days may be completely different?
We don't even know,
But I think you always have to be proactive in your thinking.
Yeah.
You'd never want to be the one, per se, caught with your pants down.
Right.
And I think the more that you know, and the one thing about the iSigma group of people is they're very good at sharing information.
Very much.
And I think being a partner and a member, it really benefits us, and it benefits me to tell our people in our senior leadership, in our credit department, because I am sort of the focal point for BMO with this industry.
Right. Yeah. You are really. I said to you before we started, I mean, so many of the people that we intersect with are the same people.
Yes.
And you've got such a unique pulse on the industry from the financial side of things, which is really, I think, such an interesting place to be.
But I will say this too, that as somebody who's not as mechanically inclined maybe as some other people, it's very interesting to talk to the people at Alpine, at Shred First, at Shred Tech, and at Vecoplan to learn about their equipment. Because the more that I can understand those assets, the better it's going to help me in communicating with our people internally.
Yeah, and there's some, I walked around the floor and did video of all 4 of the shred truck manufacturers. And, there's some really interesting evolution and innovation and to see what they're all doing to continue to improve the industry.
Well, if you think about this, and this was brought up, I can't remember if it was this morning's guest speaker or if it was yesterday's guest speaker, but I remember when I started in the industry, we had a paper file on every single deal that I did. And so you figure from 85 till probably when we started getting automated in the early to mid 2000s, 2005,
Yeah.
6 or so. We're going from basically what was paper to an electronic file. Well, you still had tax returns, financial statements, social security numbers, and you just couldn't throw that information in the garbage.
Yeah.
And so I think that as you look at how we've changed in how we've gone to electronic files from paper files, all that post information had to be properly destroyed. And, today it's not paper, it's hard drives.
Right.
Because all of that information's got to be destroyed in a proper manner.
Yeah. Yeah. And those are new products coming aboard.
Yes.
If you walk through, you see, oh, there's a shred truck that's only for hard drive shredding.
Yeah, but if you think of the information that's not only on a hard drive, but on a thumb drive.
Right.
And if it's not destroyed properly
Yeah.
and it ends up in the wrong hands, a lot of bad can come of that.
Yeah, a lot of bad. Do you have any advice? Shredder walks up to you and says, I'm not, or they're considering shredding. They want to do mobile. What advice would you give them if you had a chance to whisper in their ear, 2 to 4 months before they actually tried to get financing? What would you tell them to do? What kind
Have a plan.
Okay.
Have a plan. Have an executable plan. A realistic plan. It's not shoot for the moon and hope you hit the top of the barn type of plan. Have a realistic plan.
Okay.
And ask those hard questions. Can I execute it? Can this work? Why can it work? Do you have the contracts? In fact, I was talking to a gentleman who was looking at a truck, and I said, well, what's the need for the truck? Well, I'm looking at getting contracts. Okay. Isn't it easier to get the contract before you get the truck?
Right.
So there is a little bit of the chicken and the egg. But if you have a plan, and it's what I would call it's an executable plan, I think you're far ahead of the game in being able to put something together that will work for you than if you're making it up on a napkin.
Yeah. So, and I think it's such a good idea. I mean, such a good advice, which is, if you're new to the industry, it's not that you won't support somebody new to the industry, but it's that. You need to know that they've actually figured out how this whole thing operates,
Yes.
right? Because it's a risk for you. I mean, you're essentially taking risk by
Lending money.
lending money.
Yes,
I mean, it's a risk.
I remember my predecessor, Frank Zeldner, used to say that we lend a large sum of money and ask you to pay it back a little bit at a time.
Right.
And that's the issue, is that we need you to pay it back.
Right.
And if you pay it back, we'll lend you more.
Right.
And-
And somebody who comes to you, not just, I don't know, it's not a paper napkin, I'm going to make $1 bazillion in shredding. It's here's what I'm doing. Here's what I've already done. Here's where I'm going. I know you and I share mutual clients who are not big clients and who had to finance their way into sort of getting this thing revving a little bit for them. But it was helpful to know you knew that they had a plan in
Yes.
place.
I mean, the unfortunate aspect or the fact of the matter is debt is a realistic issue of this industry.
Yeah.
It's a heavy equipment intensive operation.
Right.
And again, you go back to your options. You can pay cash or you can finance it. And more often than not, the smaller or medium-sized business who are our target market finance equipment.
Right. They have to.
And it's a debt stream, but it's a manageable debt stream. And that's where you have to look at your revenue sources and can you cash flow that debt?
Right.
And that's where you simply have to ask the question, does the acquisition justify your need?
Right. Right.
Or you can also say, does your need justify your acquisition? And because you don't want it to be that old credit card theory. I'm just going to put my credit card down and I'll worry about the bill when it comes. And before you know it, you got a $6,000 balance on your credit card.
Right.
That's bad.
Yeah. Yeah. Joe, this has been really helpful. I asked you for 10 minutes and we've gone 20. So
well, thank you.
Generous with your information and response. And thank you for all you do in this industry.
Well,
to
no, I
help.
mean, we're passionate about it. You know,
Yeah.
we want to be looked at as a good partner. We're here to stay. It's not here today, gone tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I think this is a great industry because they play a vital role.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at bank fraud, internet fraud today, and how it can affect people's lives, if you're destroying your information properly and it's in the hands of good people, which are all out here,
Yep.
I think you can sleep pretty well at night.
Yeah.
And we just want to be a good partner to those people.
Well, thank you for being such a good partner to individuals and the industry as a whole. So
Oh, you're more than welcome.
And appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Cheers.